Hey there, everyone. So Hannah here, tuning in from the radiant golden foothills of Northern California on this beautiful day with the light of the sun coming down. And I wanted to offer a little bit of my perspective around some of the energetics of this time that we're in. So we are in what's called the Lionsgate portal. Yesterday, August 8th, 8/8 was the fullest expression of it, although I believe it's open from like July 26th to around August 17th. And then we're also in eclipse season. So what does this all mean? For me, we're in the time of the constellation of Leo, right? And so in the particular lineage of astrology that I study, the mystery school of Leo is all about that journey inward. It's a sign of self-interest, of self-study, of turning the awareness deeply inward to learn to love every aspect of self so fully that then that self-love naturally radiates out. Other people are drawn to it, and the leadership of Leo comes through that open heart, from a willingness to serve, from that radiance of self-discovery, of self-awareness. And within that, we also have the eclipse season, right? So the unacknowledged, unseen aspects of self, the shadowy aspects of old trauma and unprocessed belief systems and outdated ideologies are really being presented, are really being amplified as an opportunity to really examine them, to bring the light of awareness to those places in our being. So there's this really interesting dynamic dance of where we're being asked to step into the full magnificence of our being, where we're asked to really allow our light to shine in the world, to bring the radiance of the gifts that we have to offer in service to this time with an open heart, with willing hands. And at the same time, we're being presented with all of the aspects of self that are not in alignment with that. What an opportunity we have. So I find in myself one of the biggest themes that I've really been returning to again and again and again is the importance of conscious choice. To really allow myself to slow down enough to ask, where am I orienting to this situation, to this moment? Which part of myself is responding? And how am I choosing to align every thought, every word, every action with my fullest expression of self, of light, of love, of the gifts that I have to offer, with my full magnificence, with the truth of who I really am? And it's really important here to really examine what we call the shadow aspects of self, right? What are the shadow aspects of self? They're the parts of ourselves that tell us that it's not okay to trust, that it's not okay to open our heart, that it's unsafe to love, that we don't belong here, that we shouldn't be willing to show up. All of the aspects that are outdated, that are living from those past traumas, from those unresolved experiences and beliefs and understandings and personas and ways of relating to the world. And I think that there's a lot of belief in this modern paradigm of release, of these are aspects of self that we just need to release. We need to let them go. But ultimately, in trying to do that, we are telling those aspects of self, you don't belong here. There's no place for you in my system. And then ultimately, we're telling the whole of humanity, there's no place for that expression. You don't belong here. And what happens when we do that? When we do that to ourselves, we're pushing it deeper and deeper into our system, deeper and deeper into the shadow. And I hate to break it to you, but what is in our shadow is what runs our life unconsciously, right? It's what's actually running the show, because when we keep it hidden, when we keep it pushed away, when we refuse to acknowledge it, then it's ultimately what's in the driver's seat, no matter how hard we try. And we keep trying to release it. We keep thinking that we let that go, right? And then months or years later down the road, it pops back up and we're like, wait a minute, I thought I dealt with you. Why are you here again? What's happening? So it's really interesting cycle. So for me, I think it's less about release and letting go, which I fundamentally don't believe is actually possible. And I think it's more about building relationship with, shining the light of awareness on, really allowing ourselves to look honestly at those aspects of our being, those different voices, those memories and patterns of self that are no longer current, and allowing ourselves to really recognize the service that those parts have performed, because ultimately they formed for a reason. They formed to keep us safe, right? They formed to protect us, to allow us to actually survive in this world that we're learning to be human in, right? And so to really acknowledge and to give our thanks and gratitude for those expressions of, wow, thank you. That part of me that has been unwilling to let love in, like, you really kept me safe. Those walls were really necessary to help protect me, to help me to survive to this point. And I'm so grateful for your faithful service. You have been so devoted, and thank you. And it's no longer time for you to be in the driver's seat. It's time for us to open to love, to open our heart, to be willing to show up, to be willing to trust. It's time to connect more fully to the radiance, possibility of this life. So thank you for your service, and it's time for you to take a seat in the passenger seat and to allow the truth of my being to steer the car, right? To allow the truth of my being to be in the driver's seat and to have conscious relationship with those other aspects of self so that we can choose where and how we are orienting in our life. I had an experience of this the other day. So I was driving back from the Shasta area, and it was pretty early in the morning, around 6:30 or so, but I had overslept just a little bit. I was pretty deep out in the woods, and I had a place to be that day, so I was in a bit of a hurry, and I was running a little bit behind. I had important places to be. I was an important person, and I'm driving down the road, and I come up over a rise in the road, and just over on the other side where you couldn't see her was a large female deer that had been struck during the night, and she was lying there deceased in the roadway. So because of her positioning, I had to swerve into the other lane to avoid her. And I'm driving down the road, I avoid her, and I keep going, and a bit of adrenaline is pumping in my system, and I have this realization of the inherent danger of that, right? Because luckily there was no one else on the road because it was still pretty early, but traffic was going to begin growing on that road, and you couldn't see if anyone was coming in the opposite direction, so if you chose to swerve and someone was coming, you might have to swerve back into the lane, and the increased likelihood that that deer was going to get hit again, or there might be an accident, and the trauma that would be incurred both by the people in the cars and the spirit of the deer, and just the danger of the situation. I'm driving and I'm in a hurry and I'm running late, and the old aspects of myself, the unresolved, unacknowledged aspects, wanted to let me know, like, okay, it's okay, someone else will take care of it, right? Someone else will come along and it'll all work out, and ultimately I'm sure it would. But I realized in that moment that I really had a choice. That I had a choice to respond out of old aspects that were not in alignment with the fullest expression of self, to just wait for someone else to take care of it. Or I had the choice to listen to that deeper part of myself, the way in which I want to be showing up for my life, an expression of the values that I hold. And I had the choice to turn around, to go and take care of that deer, to clear the pathway for those that were yet to come, to act in a good way, right? So a couple miles down the road, because sometimes it takes me a minute to process through these sorts of things, a couple miles down the road, I finally turned around and went back, got my gloves out of the car, offered some prayers to the deer, moved her out of the roadway and into the bush so that the different animals, the scavengers, could come and work on her and return her into the cycle of life. But it was this beautiful moment that really exemplified these times for me and the importance of choice. To really ask ourselves, where and how am I choosing to respond to the situation at hand? Because we always have a choice. Every single moment is an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity to step into the radiance of our being, of the full expression of self and the gifts that we have, and that which we hold dear in our heart, an opportunity to give that which we long for the most: love, connection, willingness, peace, harmony. Every moment is a choice to align ourselves with these aspects and to act accordingly. To allow the shadow aspects to take a seat in the back, to have conscious relationship with them, to consciously acknowledge them, and to choose to orient out of the center of our being, out of our highest expression of self. This is a time for planting the seeds of intention, planting the seeds of who we know we have the potential to become, planting the seeds for what we feel is possible, planting those seeds deep into the fields of potentiality, and to tend to those seeds, to show up, to water those seeds with the aspects, with the values of self that we most want to cultivate, and to have conscious choice around all of that, right? To really ask ourselves, where am I choosing to align from? How am I choosing to respond to this situation? What aspect of myself is running the show? It is so important to bring conscious choice, to build relationship with the full expression of our humanity, and to allow ourselves the willingness to show up, to give that which we most long for, to allow every moment to be a full expression of the radiance of our potential, of what we would want to call forth in our own being, in humanity, in our society, in our culture. What are our deepest prayers, and how are we allowing our life to be a living expression of that? So I think that that's a really interesting dynamic that's extra amplified in this time of the Lionsgate portal of eclipse season, where all of these shadows are being amplified and expressed for us to really take a clear look at, and the importance of asking ourselves, what is the fullest expression of self that I can bring to every moment, to every thought, to every word, to every step? What an opportunity we've been given in this form of a human experience. And another exciting piece of news, so this eclipse season, we had the full moon with the partial lunar eclipse a couple days ago in Aquarius. We've got the full solar eclipse coming up on August 21st, the day after my 30th solar return, the day after my 30th birthday, which I'm really excited about. And today is the day that registration is officially opening for the School of Connection. And this time is really all about what the School of Connection is exploring, because we're really exploring what are the gifts that I have to offer, taking the time to really ask those questions. Who am I? What am I here to do? What is the purpose? And how has my life been the perfect prescription for my evolution, for the fullness of what I have to offer to this world and this time, to really examine, to build relationship with all of those aspects of self, with all of the experiences that we've had, to rewrite the story of our own becoming, and to really step into the radiance of our service, of the gifts that we have to offer, of how we would like to come to life, to live on purpose, because the world needs people that have come alive, that are living with intention, that are living out of that expression of truth from the center of their being. So the School of Connection is an 8-month program for women, 1 weekend a month here in Northern California, really designed to build community around these questions, to take the time in our life to connect to divine nature, to connect to nature, to really be able to listen to what comes through, and to really bring awareness to every aspect of self, to slow down enough to really allow ourselves that time for conscious questioning and examination of who we truly are, of the gifts that we have to offer. So if this is something that sounds interesting for you, if you feel like there is something deeper that is longing to live through you, if you feel like you are ready to come to life, tune in. I'm going to put a link in the comments below, and today registration officially opens. We've got a really dynamic group of women that already have a full yes to this program, and I'm so looking forward to seeing the dynamic combination of souls that shows up to do this work. So stay tuned. Thanks for tuning in. I'm so excited to be able to share with y'all in this way, and good luck out there. I pray that we all orient ourselves more fully to the light of our being, to the radiant expression of who and what we are, to bring conscious awareness to everything we do, and to allow all of that to be an expression of the prayer that we have for ourselves, for humanity, for this time, and to lay the foundations for those who are yet to come. Take care, stay tuned, and thanks for listening. See you soon.